am Catherine McDowell-Baker, your host for this episode of Family Matters. Thank you so much, you all, for joining me again. We are moving right along, and I am enjoying it more and more every single time that I do a recording. Today, we're going to jump right in. I'm talking about parenting adult children. Woo! What fun! That's my topic for today. We all know, and some of this may just seem elementary to you. And then, although it seems elementary, sometimes we just need to be reminded, a gentle reminder. But as our children grow, we have to parent them differently. We don't stop parenting, we parent them differently. We parent them from a different position. A lot of times we parent from what we've learned as they grow and as they mature, as they move into adulthood. We're also growing. We're also maturing even the more. And we have more experience that we can draw from in order to be a blessing to them in their lives. And so I wanted to talk about that today. The main thing I wanted to talk about, I think, I shoot from the hip, you guys. This is not all like pre-planned or I'm going to plan everything I'm going to say. I just shoot straight from the hip. So I think what I'm going to talk about mostly is learning to let go. I really think that that's more of where I'm going with this. If it changes, oh well, hey, we're just chatting, right? That's why I like this. But at any rate, I want to talk about the change, how our children change, how we change. Oftentimes, when I think about our children and when I think about them growing up and things that happen, I start with when they are toddlers in my mind. When I think about it, I think about when they were toddlers and how maybe they just learned how to walk. I know some of you remember exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't have your own children, maybe you have nieces and nephews or children of friends. Maybe you're somebody's godparent. But do you remember when they first learned how to walk and we were behind them or beside them and we had our hands out like this, sort of trying to keep them from falling? Or they learned how to walk and they would walk so far ahead of us and we would try to run up and grab their hands and they would put their little hands behind their back because they didn't want you to hold their hand. um, but the funny thing about that is they didn't want you to hold their hands. They didn't want you to baby them until they fell. When they fell, you didn't have to try to catch up with them. They would get up and turn around and come back to where you were. I think about that now and I crack up. Not only that, I use it and I sort of parallel it with as they grow and mature into young adulthood. Even prior to that, teenagers, adolescents, teenagers, young adulthood, as they grow, that doesn't change. You guys, I share this with you all, not because I think you haven't had a like experience, but simply because we're chatting and it helps to hear that I know what you mean. I went through the same thing because sometimes we can think we're on an island and whatever is going on in our family, in our lives, in our minds, in our hearts is only for us. It's only what we're going through. We can even feel isolated actually. And sometimes that isolation comes from not sharing, not chatting with other people, just in general about it. And so that's one reason why I'm kind of talking about this morning, because I'm still learning and I'm still growing. And I thank God for understanding children, for my understanding young adults. But it just amazes me how that it feels sometimes it sort of feels like a yo-yo. They push you away and then they pull you back. There are certain areas in their lives that they welcome your input, even ask for your input. And then there are other areas in their lives where they push you away. Sometimes it's the same area that they actually pulled you close to them in. And then they will turn around when they think they have it now, just like when they were toddlers and they were trying to learn to walk and they felt like, okay, I have my balance. I can go. I don't need mama's hand anymore. I'm not holding your hand anymore. They still mimic that same behavior, even as young adults. I know I asked your input in this area when it wasn't going like I needed it to go. But you helped me, and I'm on my feet now in this area. And so now I'm pushing you back out of the picture. I hope this makes sense to somebody other than me because I have gone through it. And it's never intentional on their part. And a lot of times they don't even understand that they're doing that, but they do that. And so it behooves us as parents to understand and to learn when to, and I don't want to sound harsh, sometimes we just need to learn how to let them get up from the fall on their own. The example that I gave earlier, I mentioned that when they fall, they get up and sort of come back to you. But there are also times that they fall and they don't get up. They're waiting for you to pick them up. The same hands that they've pushed away, they're now waiting for those same hands to return and pick them up. That behavior can continue. But I'm going to offer this morning what I've had to learn. I've had to learn to allow them to find a way to get up on their own. Mhm. I know that sounds simple, don't it? But you guys have to realize, I have to remember, I've been a stay-at-home mom. I was a stay-at-home mom. All of my children's childhood, just about, with the exception of brief times when I was away. Maybe I got a job for a few months or something, which was very rare. But for the most part, I was a stay-at-home mom with my children. So in that respect, my children were the world that I lived in. They were my world. This was what I did on a daily basis. I made sure that my children had what they needed. I made sure that my children were okay. When my children went to school, I made sure to develop a relationship with my children's teachers. Just those kind of things, because that's what was important to me. If your family does it differently, I applaud you, because some people can do it and they have no issues with it. I'm not you and you're not me. This is just me sharing how I have done this far, what I have done. And not only that, but how I continue to learn through it all. And I pray that you do the same, because as long as we live, we should be growing. Even in parenting, family matters. Even in the matters of our family, we should be growing. We should be developing. We should be growing beyond the elementary stage of marriage and of parenting. So, what you hear me say comes from not only what I've learned through experience, but also what I am learning as we go forward. This is what the chat sessions are about. The chat sessions are about, let's link arms, let's move together. Let's be honest enough to say that it's not perfect in every area of our lives, and that each of us can have something that can help the other one get through the situation. So that's basically where I am with that this morning, you guys. So as they matured, especially when they got older, in the beginning, I referenced when they were just learning to walk. But what about when they've been walking for a while now? And you're telling them, don't go that way. Don't run over there. There's a hole over there. Don't run over there. You're going to fall. Don't, whatever the situation may be. And they do it anyway. We call it hard headed in the country. That's what we call it, just being hard headed. When they be hard headed, that's what we're talking about now. And they then fall in that same area where you told them that there was a bump in the road, that there was a hole over there that they might fall in, and they fall in that hole. It has taken me years to grow to the point that I've had to learn, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning simply because, as I said, my children have been my world. They're not kids anymore, they are young adults. Some of them more young adult than the other ones, or some of them less young adult, I should say, than the other one. And it's not anything like negative or horrific or anything like that. It is just simple areas in their lives that I've had to learn to allow them to get up on their own. Just as when they were children and they fail possibly due to being hard-headed, not following your instructions or whatever. As they get older, they may not always take your advice. That's what I'm talking about. I don't mean being hard-headed as, well, I'm just not going to do. No, that's what I'm talking about. They may listen to your advice, listen to your instruction, but as adults, they can make their own decisions. They can decide, I heard what mom had to say, I heard what my friends had to say, or co-workers, or whatever the situation may be. I heard whatever, and I'm going to make a decision based on all of that information that I've gathered. And it may be totally different than the advice we gave them. They have that right to do that. And in response and in return, we have a right that when it does not go the way they think it should go, but they made the decision to go that way, we have a right not to pick them up. I have just learned to be okay with not picking them up this time. I'm going to still be here. I will even let you lean on me in order for you to stand again. I promise you I'll do that because I will never stop supporting you. I know I'm talking for more than me. I'm using I a lot, but I'm talking about we as parents. I'm not just talking about me. I know it's about somebody else too. But there comes a time when it's better for us. Understand, it's okay to be selfish in that respect sometimes. When you have given all of you unselfishly to your children, to your mate, to whomever, there comes a time when you have to recoup. You have to readjust. And so it's okay. It's not a selfish thing. It is survival. That's what it is. It is survival. And so there comes those times when we can lend ourselves to be leaned on, but I will not totally pick you up. Whatever the consequence that follows the action you decided to take, consequence, let me help you understand, isn't consequences are not always negative. Consequences are simply results. This is what resulted from the choice, the decision that I made. So, consequences are not always negative. They are simply the results of the choices made. Yet, when it occurs that those choices result in consequences that are negative, we have a right to determine how much of that we're going to go through with them. Because when they go through, yeah, we go through. We have to determine not only how much we're going to go through, but how to help them through it without it totally stressing us out. I hope this is helping somebody. So there comes a time when we have to say, enough is enough. There comes a time that we have to really trust our prayers. We have to really trust our prayers. Really trust our prayers. I've heard that. I've been convinced of that, that we have to learn to trust our prayers simply because we can't, because we have these treasures in an earthen vessel. We are spirit beings, but we live in bodies. So we have the treasure of a spirit that lives in a body which is earthen. So because we are limited in these vessels, remember, Jesus was a spirit. He's God. He's God. He's God who put himself in the form of man through a body. So when he was on the earth, he was limited because he couldn't be everywhere at the same time. And we are limited too. We can't be everywhere at the same time. We just cannot do it. And so, for that reason, we have to learn that there is a time when we allow them to simply go through it on their own, to simply be an ear for them when possible, if needed. In my situation, I've had to learn how to wait until I'm asked. Yeah, because I just volunteer you some information. I will volunteer what? I will volunteer you some information about what I think about what you do and have done and get ready to do when you're mine. So I've had to grow to understand these are grown people. I don't have babies. My young adults are 36 and 29. There's nothing baby about that. So I've had to come to a point that my world can no longer revolve around them. And when they watch this video, they're probably gonna be so happy. They're probably gonna say, "Oh my goodness, Mama finally got it." But I've had to come to that conclusion. I've had to, you guys, this is how horrible it is. It is. It's really bad. I had to make myself, even they are adult and gone out on their own or whatever, I always still wanted to be right where they needed me to be. If they called, I need to be able to get to them. That's not always bad, but the way I had it, it was bad. It was bad, y'all. So I don't regret anything. I don't regret how I raised them. I don't regret the adults they have become. I bless God for the adults they have become. Because when you are a stay-at-home parent, I speak from a mom position simply because I'm a mom. But when you are a stay-at-home parent, and I explained this to my husband one time while he was still enlisted in the military. He 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 received awards. He received rank. He received position. He received awards that reflected upon his development in what he was doing. It reflected upon how well he did the job that he did. Okay, that was his attaboy. That was his, okay, I'm doing pretty good because, I just got this award and I was acknowledged. I was recognized for something I did. As a stay-at-home mom, I didn't get that same acknowledgement. I didn't get that same recognition. So in my psyche, in my mind, how my children developed, the people they became, the young adults that they were and are and continuing to grow to be, for me, that's a reflection on me. That's a reflection on how well I've done. That's how I took it. That's how I took it. I really did. I didn't say it was right. I said that's how I perceived it. And that's where I went from. I had that in my mind. If they misbehaved in school, if they failed, if they did, somehow I didn't do something right. And just the other day, a conversation, a telephone call that came from my mama years and years and years ago came to my mind. My husband and I were at some military base, and most likely it was Fort Hood, now Fort Cavazos, but we were at Fort Hood, Texas, where we had been the majority of his 24 years. I remember driving my car and receiving a phone call from my mom. And my mom said to me, and it was strange because, first time I'm thinking, okay, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she said, hey, I said, hey, mom. She said, I'm calling you because there's something I need to say to you. And I said, okay. And I'm sure that's exactly the way I said it. Because if you knew my mom shot straight from the hip. If she had something to say, she worried later, maybe not at all, whether how it came out, whether you liked it. Mama just said what she had to say. And so when she said, there's something I need to say to you, I'm like, oh, Lord, what I done? What have I done? And she said, I want to say this to you about your children. And my children was of course, much younger then. But she said, I want to say to you that I admire how you raise your children. I admire the mama that you are to your children. I was floored. She said, I want you to know this. Whatever your children decide they're going to do, right or wrong, she said, especially if they go do something different than what you've taught them, basically, is what she was saying. She said, you've been a mama to them. She said, I've heard you talk to your kids about everything. You don't leave anything untouched. She said, so whatever they do, whatever they decide to do, it does not mean that you didn't do what you were supposed to do because you've done what you had to do. You guys don't have any idea. And of course, I don't remember verbatim the conversation, but I remember, and this was just recently that I remembered that conversation because I remember saying to her, this compliment carries more weight than any compliment anybody could ever give me about my relationship with my children. Then she said something. She said, I wish I had had the kind of relationship with y'all. Y'all, yeah, we say y'all because we from the country. I wish I had had the kind of relationship with y'all that you have with your children. And to that I said, it is because of the relationship that you had with me that I can have the relationship that I have with my children. Did I do things differently than she did them? Yes. But my circumstances were different than hers were. I didn't marry the same man she married, although she said we shared my husband. She said it in a minute. Where is our husband? But you get what I'm saying. So, because the situations and the circumstances were different, doesn't mean she was any less productive in parenting than I was, because it was because of her self sacrificing, the things that she did, that I am and was able to be the mom that I am to my now young adult children. I tease one of them and say, baby, you ain't about that young too much no more now. You have to get that young adult up because you're raising on up there. You 36. But at any rate, you guys, I just want to come in and kind of speak my heart today. you know, never will I ever point fingers at anything specific that may be going on, although there really is nothing going on, thank God. But it's just the little things that I've learned through the years parenting, marriage, parenting parents, when you have to be a caretaker for your parents, friendships. Do you understand that life itself is relational? It is based on relationships. You have a relationship with your doctor. You have a relationship with the cashier. It's relational. We have to relate to each other. So when I'm chatting about family matters that all point to family relationships. And so this is one of those off the cuff kind of chats, but I hope somewhere in it you find something meaningful and something that can possibly help you do like me and learn that there comes a time when our prayers stand alone. or when we realize that they should stand alone. Now, our young adults are in positions in life that I'm learning that, and the funny thing is, I miss them. They're around, they're in Texas, but I miss them because their lives are advancing into, as I said, not only young adulthood, but adulthood. And, it is strange. It is so strange. That's what I raised them to do. They're doing it, and I'm happy to see it on the one hand. But on the other hand, I'm now like, okay, so, but I do have a grand that's here that he still lets me love up on him a little bit. And I have other grands as well. They're not here. I say other because they're not right here. I have grands that are located in other locations. I have, some that text me. And so I'm kind of able to kind of still smooch up on them a little bit. But I have one that is here physically that I can smooch up on. And he just doesn't, he just lets me still smooch up on him. He's getting ready to be 18 this year. So I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to smooch up on him, y'all. But I'm going to try for a little while longer. But at any rate, you guys, as always, please let me know what you think. Not necessarily what you think, but well, you can if you want to. But give me feedback. I love feedback. Give me feedback and let me know. You may have something you want to add. You may have a topic even that concerns family that you would like for me to discuss. Please hit me up. Send me a message. Nobody will see it. Nobody will know who it is. Just send me a message and let me know. The next time you talk or in one of your chats, talk about XYZ, and if I have experience with that, I promise you I will. God bless you. I love you all. And remember, family matters. Bye bye.